Dr. Tom Adaba is an experienced and distinguished broadcast journalist whose career not only largely influenced the broadcast journalism field in Nigeria, but also inspired and mentored numerous professionals in the field. Dr. Adaba is a former Director General of the Nigeria Broadcasting Commission and still remains a sought-after media expert. Recently, he published his autobiography titled, But for God. He joined us for a reading of the fascinating book. Enjoy this.
I am Dr. Tom Adaba, a Knight of the Catholic Church and a recipient of the OON, a member of the Order of Niger. I have been a broadcaster most of my life, and I have garnered quite some experience, and I thought I should share it with people. Hence, I had to write this. Well, there's not a single activity, not a single column, not a single chapter in this book that is not with the total backing of God. He had done it, he has done it, and I believe that he deserves all the glory and praise. Hence, I titled the book, But for God. I'll take in just a chapter, a part of a chapter of my first experience in the United States when I went in there to do my first degree in mass communications in 1969. And I hope you will also enjoy it. My first 2 quarters in the campus were in a student's apartment with just 2 of us to a room. I was fortunate to have a mature aeronautics student as my roommate. In terms of discipline and precision, there was quite some military disposition in this young man. I cannot quite remember whether Paul told me that he was in the army before coming back to school. He was, however, a very pleasant young man of about 23 to 24. He was very much aware of schedules and would, most of the time, bring in his guests when I was not in. I thought it was a sign of great respect for me. Did I experience any cultural shock? Of course, bet we did. But soon got over them anyway. I remember one evening when Abdullahi, one of the participants for a short certificate program, and I were coming out of the general studies classes, and we're passing through one of the greens, where some young couples were carousing, and rolling over each other, kissing passionately in the open. Greatly shocked, Abdullah shouted, "Kay, Kagan Sufa," meaning, "Hey, can you see them?" And I answered, yes. He was afraid, or do I say, embarrassed, yet interested enough in the spectacle to stop and watch. We merely slowed down to give us ample chance to feed our eyes. Allah kiyaye marakunya, meaning God forbid, shameless people. We continued our walk to the hostel and changed the topic. Long after that, I just heard Abdullah heave and said, "Subhanallah, Kasan Haram," meaning, God forbid, a land of sin. I did not think that experience was still on his mind until he heaved a sigh with those statements, which could be an altruistic disgust or a suppressed excitement of what he had seen. In one of those early general studies classes that we had in the Department of Education in McCracken Building, virtually all of us were there, including the elders such as our former rector, Mr. Timothy Afolayan, who was there for a postgraduate degree. We mixed with the younger ones, and of course the older Americans, for this basic course because it was compulsory. I remember in one of those seminars when one of the younger Americans in the class called Mr. Afolayan Tim. The reaction of this elder was one of shock and discomfort, which he tried very hard to conceal. This was not as bad as when one of us, who had just graduated like me from Mr. Afolayan's school, dared to imitate the American to call him Tim in the class. This elder could not contain it and had to ask the Nigerian youngster there and then, "Is that the way you address elders in your country? Don't let me hear that from you ever again." That was not enough. He called Murray out after the class and gave him a good dressing down. Indeed, Murray, right from Washington, D.C., had struggled very hard to be an American. He even ran into some problems at a drinking house where there was a brawl. It was his passport and his accent that saved him. He would have been arrested by the police just 3 days after entering the United States. Of course, after that bashing by Mr. Afolayan, he was brought down to earth and he learned to behave. It was late in October. The leaves had turned brown and yellow, signifying the end of the summer or fall, and heralding the winter season. One day, I was walking from the town to the Department of Education building for classes. I saw some dusty flakes falling on the shoulder of my jacket. I shrugged it off for some drizzles until it increased in measure and tempo. I then asked what it was and was told it was snow. Boy, what excitement. For the first time in my life, I physically saw and felt what I had been reading about in the books in Nigeria.
Hopefully, we will have Dr. Adaba join us for a proper review of his autobiography sometime soon. You might want to look out for that. Well, we finally stopped receiving entries for our National Book Review Essay Competition for senior secondary school students. Kudos to all the students who gave it a shot and sent us their entries. The judges are off to work. All the entries will be carefully assessed and scored. The best 10 will be shortlisted for a final round, which will take place at Channels Television. And then the best 3 of the best 10 will be selected. If you sent in your entry, keep your fingers crossed and stay glued to our social media handles displayed on your screen. And of course, this show for announcements. The final round for the top 10 will take place on the 19th of July, 2019. So you can guess that announcement of the top 10 will happen anytime from now. We'll also be introduced to our judges on our various social media platforms. As always, we'll be delighted to get your feedback on this show. If you have any questions or inquiries, please feel free to send them to us. We'll be happy to respond. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.